Birthdays in our family have always been loud, crowded, and full of the kind of chaos that only comes from years of shared history. This year, though, there was a different energy in the air, a sense that something was about to shift. The house was filled with laughter and the clatter of dishes, but beneath it all I felt a current of anticipation I couldn't quite name. As I sat at the head of the table, surrounded by children, grandchildren, and in-laws, I tried to soak in the moment. My wife squeezed my hand, my son made a toast, and my daughter-in-law, Anna, watched me with a small secretive smile. When it was time for gifts, the usual parade of cards and wrapped boxes made its way down the table. But then Anna stood up, holding something behind her back. She placed a heavy, old-fashioned box in front of me. It was made of dark wood, the surface worn smooth by time, and it was locked with a brass combination dial. The room fell quiet as everyone leaned in. Curiosity piqued. "Happy birthday," Anna said, her eyes shining with a mix of mischief and something deeper. "I thought it was time you had this." I turned the box over in my hands, feeling its weight. "What's inside?" I asked, half joking, half serious. Anna just shrugged. "That's for you to discover. But you'll need the code." She didn't offer it, and I could see the questions forming on everyone's faces. The box became the center of attention, drawing speculation and nervous laughter. My son teased Anna about her mystery novel tendencies, while my wife shot me a look that said, "Are you sure you want to open that?" I felt a strange mix of excitement and unease. There was something about the way Anna watched me, like she knew this gift would change more than just my birthday. As the party continued, the locked box sat in front of me, untouched but impossible to ignore. I had no idea that this simple gift would be the key to a secret that would unravel everything I thought I knew about my family. The box sat in the center of the table, drawing every eye like a magnet. My grandchildren circled around, their faces full of wonder and impatience. My son tried to lift it and whistled at the weight. "What did you put in here, Anna?" "Gold bars," he joked, but Anna only smiled. Her lips pressed together as if she was holding back a secret. My wife leaned in, running her fingers over the smooth wood and the brass dial. "It looks antique," she murmured. "Where did you find it?" Anna shrugged, her gaze never leaving me. "It's been in the family for a while. I thought it was time it found its way to you." The questions started flying. "Is it a puzzle? Is there a trick to opening it? What's the code?" Anna shook her head at each one, her expression playful but firm. "You'll figure it out," she said, "when the time is right." The more she refused to explain, the more the tension in the room grew. My daughter rolled her eyes, half amused, half annoyed. "You always did love a good mystery." "Anna," I tried to play along, rattling the box gently and listening for a clue, but it gave nothing away. The lock was solid, the dial stiff from years of disuse. I felt a strange sense of déjà vu, as if I'd seen this box before, but the memory danced just out of reach. My mind raced with possibilities. Was it a family heirloom? A prank or something more? As the evening wore on, the box became a silent guest at the party. Every so often, someone would reach out to touch it, as if hoping to divine its contents by feel alone. Anna watched all of this with a quiet satisfaction, her eyes glinting with anticipation. She offered no hints, no reassurances, just that same cryptic smile. By the time the last guest left, the box was still locked, its secret intact. I caught Anna's eye as she gathered her things. "You'll know when you're ready," she said softly. Her words lingered in my mind long after the house had grown quiet, and I realized this was no ordinary gift. It was a challenge, a riddle, and perhaps a doorway to something I wasn't sure I was ready to face. As the evening wore on, the box became more than just a gift. It became a spark. The living room buzzed with speculation, each family member offering their own theory about what might be inside. My son, always the skeptic, insisted it was just an elaborate joke. "Maybe it's empty," he said, grinning at Anna. "Or maybe you've hidden a note that says, 'Gotcha.'" My daughter, on the other hand, was convinced it was something serious. "Why would you give Dad a locked box if it wasn't important?" she pressed, her voice edged with suspicion. "Is this about Grandma's old jewelry? Or something from before you married into the family?" Anna only smiled, refusing to be drawn into the debate. The grandchildren, sensing the tension, turned it into a game. They whispered wild guesses, pirate treasure, secret recipes, a map to a hidden fortune. Their laughter was a welcome distraction, but even they seemed to sense that the adults were circling something bigger. Old family dynamics began to surface. My wife reminded everyone of the time her own mother had hidden a will in a cookie tin, sparking a week-long search after her passing. My son-in-law, who'd always felt like an outsider, wondered aloud if the box was meant for him. "Maybe Anna's trying to tell us something about her side of the family," he joked. But his eyes lingered on the box a little too long. As the debate grew louder, so did the undercurrents of rivalry and resentment. My son and daughter bickered over who should get to try the code first, each convinced they had the best guess. My wife tried to mediate, but even she seemed unsettled by Anna's silence. I watched all of this unfold, feeling both amused and uneasy. The box had become a mirror, reflecting the cracks and connections in our family. It was strange how a simple object could stir up so much: old wounds, buried hopes, and the sense that we were all still searching for something we couldn't quite name. By the end of the night, the box remained locked, but the questions it raised lingered in the air. I realized that whatever was inside, it had already changed us, forcing us to confront not just the mystery of the box, but the mysteries we carried within ourselves. The house was finally quiet, the echoes of laughter and debate fading into the hush of midnight. I was clearing away the last of the dishes when Anna appeared in the doorway, her expression softer than it had been all evening. She hesitated, then slipped a folded piece of paper into my hand. "You should be the one to open it," she whispered. "But do it when you're ready, alone." I turned the paper over, feeling the weight of her words. On it, in her neat handwriting, was a 6-digit code. My heart thudded in my chest. All night, the box had been a source of curiosity and tension. But now that I held the key, I felt something else: dread. What if the secret inside was something I didn't want to know? What if it changed the way I saw my family or myself? I carried the box to my study, the code burning a hole in my pocket. The room felt different, as if the shadows themselves were waiting to see what I would do. I set the box on the desk, running my fingers over the worn wood, the cold brass of the lock. I thought about Anna's face as she handed me the code, her hope, her fear, her determination. Whatever was inside, she believed I needed to see it. I sat for a long time, the code in one hand, the box in the other. Memories flickered through my mind: birthdays, arguments, moments of pride and regret. I wondered if Anna had found the box by accident, or if she'd been waiting for the right moment to bring it into the light. I wondered what she hoped I would find. Finally, I took a deep breath and turned the dial, entering the numbers one by one. The lock clicked, the sound impossibly loud in the stillness. My hands shook as I lifted the lid, bracing myself for whatever truth Anna had placed in my care. In that moment, I realized that the real gift wasn't the box or even its contents. It was the chance to face the unknown, to open a door I'd been afraid to touch, and to discover what secrets might finally set us free. The lock gave way with a soft click, and for a moment I just stared at the box, afraid to look inside. My breath caught as I lifted the lid, revealing a collection of objects that seemed to hum with memory. The first thing I saw was a stack of letters, their edges curled and yellowed with age, tied together with a faded blue ribbon. Beneath them were black and white photographs, some familiar, others of faces I didn't recognize, smiling at picnics, standing in front of old cars, gathered around tables much like the one we'd just left. I picked up the letters, my hands trembling. The top one was addressed to my late wife, written in my father's careful script. I recognized the date, years before Anna had joined our family, before some of my children were even born. I set it aside, feeling a strange mix of curiosity and dread. The next letter was addressed to me, but I didn't open it yet. I wanted to see what else the box held. There was a small velvet pouch heavy in my palm. Inside I found a gold locket, engraved with initials I didn't recognize. I opened it to find a tiny photograph of a woman I'd never met, her eyes kind and sad. Tucked beneath the pouch was a folded newspaper clipping, brittle and yellowed, about a fire in a town I'd only heard mentioned in passing. The article listed several names, including one that matched the initials on the locket. At the very bottom of the box was a sealed envelope, thicker than the others, with my name written in Anna's handwriting. My heart pounded as I realized she must have added it herself, tying her own story to the ones that came before. I hesitated, overwhelmed by the weight of what I was holding. Each item was a clue, a piece of a puzzle I hadn't known existed, a hidden chapter of our family's history, waiting to be uncovered. I sat back, the box open before me, and let the memories and questions wash over me. Who were these people? What had my father and Anna kept hidden all these years? And why had Anna chosen now on my birthday to bring these secrets into the light? The answers I knew would change not just how I saw my family, but how I saw myself. The past, once locked away, was finally open, and I wasn't sure I was ready for what it had to say. With trembling hands, I broke the seal on the thick envelope Anna had placed at the bottom of the box. The paper inside was heavy, the ink bold and deliberate. I unfolded the letter and began to read aloud, my voice echoing in the quiet study. My dearest family, if you are reading this, it means the time has come for the truth to be known. I have carried this secret for most of my life, believing I was protecting you. But I see now that silence only breeds more pain. I paused, glancing at the open box and the scattered clues. My heart pounded as I continued. There was a time long before you were born when our family was not as it seemed. My father, your grandfather, had another child, a daughter born out of wedlock. Her name was Margaret. She was sent away, her existence hidden from everyone but a few. My mother, heartbroken and ashamed, made me promise never to speak of her. I kept that promise even as it tore at me. I felt a chill as the words settled in. My mind raced back to childhood memories, whispers at family gatherings, the way my father would sometimes stare out the window, lost in thought. Margaret tried to reach out to us many times. She sent letters, some of which I kept. Others I was too afraid to answer. She wanted to know her family, to be part of our lives. But I let fear and loyalty to my mother keep me silent. I watched as she built a life of her own, always on the outside, always hoping for a place at our table. Tears stung my eyes as I read the final lines. I am sorry for the pain my silence has caused. I am sorry for the opportunities lost, for the love denied, for the wounds that never healed. If you can, find Margaret or her children. Welcome them. Let the truth bring you together, not drive you apart. I hope you can forgive me, and that you will choose honesty and love over fear and shame. I finished reading, the room heavy with the weight of generations. The secret explained so much. Old arguments, unexplained absences, the sense that something was always missing. I looked at the box, at the locket and the photographs, and realized that our family had been shaped by a betrayal none of us had understood until now. The truth at last was out. I found Anna in the kitchen, the house dark except for the glow of the stove light. She was sitting at the table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea, her face drawn and tired. I set the box down between us, unable to keep the tremor from my voice. How did you find this, Anna? And why now? Why on my birthday? She looked up, her eyes shining with a mix of guilt and resolve. I didn't mean for it to happen this way, she said softly. A few months ago, I was helping your wife clean out the attic. I found the box hidden behind a stack of old suitcases. At first, I thought it was just another family keepsake. But when I realized it was locked, I got curious. I asked your wife, but she said she'd never seen it before. Anna paused, searching for the right words. I almost put it back, but something told me not to. I started looking for clues, old letters, photos, anything that might explain where it came from. That's when I found the code, tucked inside a book of your father's. I didn't want to go behind your back, but the more I learned, the more I realized this wasn't just about the past. It was about all of us. She took a shaky breath. I know it wasn't my place, but I've seen how secrets can eat away at a family. I grew up with my own. Things my parents never talked about. Things that made me feel like an outsider. When I married into this family, I promised myself I'd never let silence win. I wanted you to have the chance to know the truth. Even if it hurt, I listened, my anger softening into understanding. Anna's decision hadn't been easy, and I could see the toll it had taken on her. She reached across the table, her hand covering mine. I'm sorry for the pain, but I hope you'll see that I did this out of love. Sometimes the hardest truths are the ones that set us free. In that quiet kitchen, I realized Anna had given us more than a box. She'd given us the courage to face what we'd been running from, and the chance to finally heal. The next evening, we called the family together. The living room was crowded and tense, everyone sensing that something important was about to unfold. Anna sat beside me, her presence a quiet anchor, as I explained what had happened. The box, the code, the letter, and the secret that had shaped our family for generations. As I read Dad's words aloud, the room grew still, my wife's eyes filled with tears, my son's jaw clenched in disbelief, and my daughter pressed her hand to her mouth, shaking her head. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the questions and emotions erupted all at once. How could he keep this from us? My son demanded, his voice raw. All those years and we never knew? My wife wept openly, mourning not just the secret but the years lost to silence. My daughter, always the peacemaker, tried to comfort her siblings, but even she couldn't hide her shock. Old grievances surfaced, arguments about loyalty, about who was included and who was left out, about the ways we'd hurt each other without ever meaning to. The air was thick with anger, regret, and the ache of things unsaid. For a while, it seemed as if the truth might break us apart for good. But as the night wore on, something shifted. One by one, we began to talk honestly about our fears, our disappointments, and the love that had survived despite it all. My wife apologized for the times she'd shut people out. My son admitted he'd always felt like he was competing for approval. My daughter confessed to resenting the secrets she sensed, but never understood. We listened, really listened to each other's pain, and in that listening, forgiveness began to take root. We realized that every family has its shadows, but it's the willingness to face them together that brings healing. By the end of the night, we weren't the same family we'd been before. We were bruised, but we were honest, and for the first time in years, I felt hope that we could move forward, not as strangers bound by secrets, but as a family united by truth. In the days that followed, our family felt lighter, as if a storm had finally passed. The pain of the secret was still there, but so was a new sense of connection. One evening, as we sat together in the living room, my daughter suggested something that made us all pause. "What if we made this a tradition?" she said. "Not the secrets, but the sharing. Each year, someone brings a box, something locked, something hidden, something meaningful. We open it together and talk about what's inside." At first, there was a ripple of laughter, but the idea quickly took hold. My son grinned, already plotting what he might put in his box. My wife nodded, her eyes bright with the possibility of turning our pain into something positive. The code, the letter, and the secret that had shaped our family for generations. As I read Dad's words aloud, the room grew still, my wife's eyes filled with tears, my son's jaw clenched in disbelief, and my daughter pressed her hand to her mouth, shaking her head. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the questions and emotions erupted all at once. How could he keep this from us? My son demanded, his voice raw. All those years and we never knew? My wife wept openly, mourning not just the secret but the years lost to silence. My daughter, always the peacemaker, tried to comfort her siblings, but even she couldn't hide her shock. Old grievances surfaced, arguments about loyalty, about who was included and who was left out, about the ways we'd hurt each other without ever meaning to. The air was thick with anger, regret, and the ache of things unsaid. For a while, it seemed as if the truth might break us apart for good. But as the night wore on, something shifted. One by one, we began to talk honestly about our fears, our disappointments, and the love that had survived despite it all. My wife apologized for the times she'd shut people out. My son admitted he'd always felt like he was competing for approval. My daughter confessed to resenting the secrets she sensed, but never understood. We listened, really listened to each other's pain, and in that listening, forgiveness began to take root. We realized that every family has its shadows, but it's the willingness to face them together that brings healing. By the end of the night, we weren't the same family we'd been before. We were bruised, but we were honest, and for the first time in years, I felt hope that we could move forward, not as strangers bound by secrets, but as a family united by truth. In the days that followed, our family felt lighter, as if a storm had finally passed. The pain of the secret was still there, but so was a new sense of connection. One evening, as we sat together in the living room, my daughter suggested something that made us all pause. "What if we made this a tradition?" she said. "Not the secrets, but the sharing. Each year someone brings a box, something locked, something hidden, something meaningful. We open it together and talk about what's inside." At first, there was a ripple of laughter, but the idea quickly took hold. My son grinned, already plotting what he might put in his box. My wife nodded, her eyes bright with the possibility of turning our pain into something positive. Hannah smiled quietly, relief and pride mingling on her face. We decided that every year on my birthday, a different family member would bring a mystery box. It could hold anything, a letter, a photograph, a keepsake, or even a question that needed answering. The only rule was that it had to be honest, and it had to be shared with everyone. The first year, my granddaughter brought a box filled with drawings and stories about her dreams. The next, my wife shared a collection of letters she'd written but never sent. Each box became a doorway to conversation, laughter, and sometimes tears. We learned things about each other we never would have known otherwise, and the tradition became a way to keep our family close, even as we grew and changed. The locked box that once divided us became a symbol of unity, a reminder that secrets lose their power when they're brought into the light. Our new tradition wasn't just about the past. It was about building a future where honesty, curiosity, and love would always have a place at the table. If this story touched you, remember, facing the past takes courage, but it's the first step toward healing and hope. The truth can be difficult, but it's what brings families together and helps us grow. Don't let secrets keep you apart from those you love. Start the conversation, share your story, and build a future rooted in honesty. If you believe in the power of real stories and the strength of family, please subscribe, like, and share. Your support helps keep these journeys alive and reminds us all that it's never too late for a new beginning. Just when we thought every secret had been revealed, I noticed a thin, unopened envelope wedged in a corner of the original box. My heart skipped. I called everyone back to the living room, the air thick with suspense. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, written in my father's unmistakable handwriting. "If you're reading this, you've found the courage I never had. There is one more truth. Look behind the painting in my study." A hush fell over the room. We rushed to the study, hearts pounding, and found a hidden compartment behind the painting. Inside was a small velvet pouch and a faded photograph of a woman none of us recognized. The shock and questions in that moment proved that even when you think the story is over, the past can still surprise you a few days later. Just as we were settling into our new normal, the doorbell rang. Standing on the porch was a woman holding the same faded photograph we'd found behind the painting. Her eyes were full of hope and fear. "I think we might be family," she said quietly. The room spun with shock and disbelief. My sister reached for my hand, and Anna's eyes filled with tears. We invited her in, hearts racing with questions. As she shared her story, pieces of our family's puzzle finally clicked into place. The stranger at the door wasn't just a visitor, she was living. Proof that the past is never truly finished, and that every ending can be the start of something new, powerful, and unexpected. The day after the stranger arrived, we invited her back for a private meeting. The living room felt charged with anticipation as we gathered around. The faded photograph lying on the coffee table between us, she introduced herself as Emily, her voice trembling with nerves and hope. Emily explained that she'd spent years searching for her roots, following clues from old letters and family stories. When she saw the photograph online, posted by Anna as part of our search for answers, she recognized it instantly. "That's my grandmother," she said, pointing to the woman in the picture. "She always told me there was more to our family than anyone knew." As Emily shared her story, the pieces began to fall into place. Her grandmother was Margaret, the hidden daughter from Dad's letter. Emily's mother had grown up never knowing her true family, always sensing something was missing. The revelation sent a shockwave through the room. My sister gasped, My wife covered her mouth and Anna's eyes filled with tears. But the biggest surprise came when Emily produced a letter of her own, written by Margaret before she died. In it, Margaret described her longing to reunite with her family and her hope that, one day, her children and grandchildren would find their way home. As we read Margaret's words, the room was silent except for the sound of quiet sobs. The secret meeting didn't just answer our questions. It gave us a new branch of family, a new story to tell, and a powerful reminder that the truth, no matter how long it's hidden, always finds its way to the light.